Hey, good morning.
Marcus, how are you?
I've been a little better. I've been under the weather for a couple of days, but hopefully I won't cough for the next hour.
We've been having a lot of fun this morning, right? We've been trying to get everything up and running here as we are back home now. At least I'm back home from a wonderful vacation. Marcus, I don't know. It sounded like you were sick all of last week, though. Is that right?
Well, just a couple of days. I'm being the good coworker, and I'm staying home today again.
That way you don't spread everything. Is that what's going on here?
That's right. That's right.
Well, cool. Well, today we've got a pretty busy schedule of going through a lot of the Business Central features, right, Marcus? I think we're kind of looking at. Is that
Yep,
correct?
that's today. Finally, we've promoted this now 3 times, so this is it today.
Yeah, Bill, you probably don't want him around. Marcus, we love you, but it's not good being sick, right? I have to deal with it with three kids constantly. I will tell you this, being at Disney and watching my son, he's 2.5 right now, everything. He touches everything. Like if I
Yep.
ask him to stop touching something, he'll touch it.
Yep.
And it
And
was
then
just
fingers in the mouth.
absolutely. And so I'm sure I'm going to have some weird thing that's going to come out of nowhere, and I will have to work remotely again for that. Appreciate the subscribe. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting. Like I said, and then at Universal, he was doing the same thing too. Every single thing that he could get his hands on, he would touch.
Yep.
So, yeah.
But you
So it's
got
good
some
to.
sun out of the deal.
I did. I still look the same, but hey, I didn't use any sunscreen, and my wife kept on saying to me, "You're going to burn. That's going to be an issue for you." So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get any tan, but it was wonderful. It was in Florida, and the temperatures was perfect. We had one day that was about 50, but every single other day was 70s and 80s. So it was
Oh, that's
it was a lot of fun. Absolutely. So.
Yep.
All right, Marcus. So what are we going to cover today? This is one where I don't have to present, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I was gonna well, we wanted to concentrate today on Business Central, and I wanted to hit really some integration points in Office, the full Office suite, and just show people how these work. I know a lot of our on-prem nav clients maybe haven't dived in with these features at all. We've got some VC clients, and they toy with them a little bit, and I just wanted to show people how these things can work, and they actually do work, and they're pretty cool features. So I just thought we'd look at that. Not so much feature functionality in Business Central, but these products that connect with Business Central.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is part of the reason why we do Confab now, right? Too, is to really educate people on the reality of the Microsoft ERP solution, and more of when we start talking about our conversations, we're not really talking as much just about ERP. We're talking about everything that connects to it.
Right.
It's much different than the ecosystem was, I'd say, even 5 years ago, right? I mean,
Yep.
we've seen a
Very much
huge
so.
shift with that. So, okay, cool. Well, Marcus, what I can do is I can flip it over here. We are going to try our presentation mode here on my monitor. And would you look at that? I see that, and you look really small again. So what we'll do is we'll fix you so that you don't look small. And there we go. So, Marcus, what I'm going to do here as I go through it, I've got us shared. We're on the left-hand side, basically. So as we start navigating through Business Central, I'll flip our face off so people can see the full screen, and I'll just keep moving that forward.
Everyone. So start out with the center. This landing page should it's the design concept. It's initial center, but talk about your function center. The first one I like is sales invoices to be. So we've talked a lot. This is connect AI. So prediction, standing sales, standing sales invoices, late payment percentage setup. So I can make it of it's actually being
Oh,
based on this
hold on,
information.
Marcus. They can barely hear you right now. let's see what's going on here.
Seeing all this great stuff.
I know, it's like really good content. So let's see if
I
I...
made it myself. Scott.
Can you speak real quick again, Marcus?
Sure. Hopefully we can get that taken care of.
How's that, guys? Can you hear that now? We can hear you, Scott. Much better. Mr. Stallman, I
Better?
owe you, as usual. All right, let's keep on rolling here, Marcus.
I'm getting text messages from people that say they can't hear me, so that's pretty cool.
Panic! Confab! Yeah. We need like a dedicated room. Like, you think about streamers, what they do is they have like the whole room set up and all the hardware, and they spent like $2,000 on it. We're streaming from laptop computers, from our desktop, which is constantly flipping around with all these things. Yeah, so awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
$29 camera.
Yeah, exactly. We're here for you guys. Come on.
All right. So let's back up a little bit. So sales invoices predicted to be overdue. So this is the artificial intelligence link with Business Central. So out of the box, I can turn this on, and the system is going to look at my invoices that are still current and give me an analysis or a prediction if they're going to be late or not, which I think is really cool. So it allows allows us to make proactive decisions prior to things being late. So often, we get an aging report, things are at 90 days. Well, now I'm in collect mode instead of being able to make proactive decisions. So this is an example of the AI connection. You can actually run this prediction on sales invoice. So once again, during a sales order, and it says, here, paying late, high con, change the terms, payment on, get the other things collected ahead of time. So I think it's a cool feature that's just out of, in Business Central out of the box. The other one, which I don't see a lot of people use anyway, which is the cash flow forecasting component of Business Central. Scott, in your experience, do a lot of people use that?
I have seen some starting to use it. So in demonstrations, I'm assuming you're talking about the artificial intelligence capabilities, right?
Yeah, so out of the box, I can do, straight cash flow analysis on transactions that are in the system, but I can enable an AI component to cash flow now in Business Central, which I think is pretty cool. So those are just two examples. AI item listing. So if your anticipated or inventory levels are going to be 6 months into the future as well. Eight features out of just cool. Is that useful? All right. Let's look at another one that I think is really cool. So almost every company that I've worked with, implementations I've done, on the collection side, both on the vendor interactions, but on the AR collection side, you always have people that say, I didn't know. I didn't know that the customer owed us money. I didn't know that they were running late, etc. With Business Central, we have the ability now with a simple install, and by simple I mean you click on the extension, you say install it, and it installs into your Outlook tenant. But I get this contact insights within Outlook, and if I just click on this button in my email, I can integrate either as a customer or a vendor. Now I just got a text that said my microphone's out again.
Yeah, I'm checking chat with it as well, guys. So I think right now your audio is showing up as it's playing through here. So
it's okay.
I think what happens is that when we go off, like when you're off screen, basically, it cuts out. So I'm going to move your pretty face around on the screen so you're floating, but I'm hoping then that will fix the audio. And chat, guys, keep on letting us know too, so I appreciate it.
Cool. All right, so I'm in Outlook. This is web Outlook, but it works in the desktop version of Outlook. Contact Insights. So what this integration is doing is it's resolving the email address of the person that either I sent an email to or I received an email from into the contact system within Business Central. And if it resolves it either as a customer or a vendor, I'm going to have an integration within Outlook that's going to allow me to see customer balance, what's past due, etc. I can use this little pop-out window here to get a little more visibility to things. But within Outlook, I have the ability now to edit my customer record, for example. Same thing works on the vendor side. I can look at aging information. Again, transaction monies that they owe us. I can see, well, what's the outstanding transactions? But I've got visibility to all of this data inside Outlook. So again, I can eliminate the I didn't know comment from people because just a simple click of a button over here, I have visibility to all that information. So if you think about a sales team that's interacting with customers on a regular basis, I'm always going to know, where does their account stand. Same functionality works on the vendor side.
Okay.
So if I'm, interacting with vendors, I can see, what our outstanding orders are, et cetera. So I think this is a cool feature. I don't see very many people implementing it, and again, it's no cost to you. The one caveat on this is licensing. So if I'm in Outlook and I'm not a Business Central user, I'm not going to see data. So I still need to be a Business Central licensed user, but I could be a team user and have read-only access to that information.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Another thing that I really like is the ability within this contact insights to actually create a new transaction. So if I'm on a customer, I could come in here and I can actually say create a new sales invoice or a new sales order. Now the scenario here is I received an email from a customer and now I want to create a sales order from this. And what this add-in is going to do is it's actually going to analyze my email, and of course I'm in twice, aren't I? What it's going to do is, if this was set up right, so classic demo, it's going to analyze my email and it's going to prompt me with some suggested inventory items that it assumes I maybe want to put on my sales order. So again, it's going to try to help me speed up the data entry, looking at both the email and potential attachments in the email to create those transactions for me. So cool feature functionality, I think that a lot of people could make use of.
And so what we're really seeing here is that, just to kind of bring it full circle, I mean, it's just basically we're accessing Business Central from within Outlook. And
Yep.
because we're using that web interface inside of Business Central, you could theoretically do this in other applications or areas like Teams. I think is one that I've experimented a little bit with it as well, to
Yes.
have that shown up inside of Microsoft Teams to be able to access that. And even beyond Business Central, I mean, Dynamics 365 Sales and all the customer engagement platform, that also has snap-ins. Like it's even deeper in that aspect where, like on Teams, you can relate it to the customer, so that if you create a team for that customer that's helping manage that customer, for example, you can then just click on that tab in Teams and it opens up right to that record.
Yep.
Very similar to what the concept is here, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Teams integrations are getting really interesting. I think they've added a lot of feature functionality. And again, sometimes we do stuff that's cool but not really useful. I think these Teams integrations are really useful. Yeah, you think about a team for a client or a customer where I can look at their outstanding sales contacts or outstanding opportunities, or if I'm thinking about service or support areas where I'm getting a filtered list of just the things that make sense to them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks like we got a question from Mark PFS. Is the link based on the email address?
Yes.
The contact in the BC must have the email address populated. Is that
Yep.
correct? Yep.
Yep, that is the link. Yep, it's the email address linked back to the contact in Business Central.
Okay, cool.
Yep. All right. Let's look at a couple other things in Business Central. So I'm going to go back here to Business Central. One of them is the Power BI integration. And, if people aren't using Power BI, they should.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Can you press back real quick?
Yeah.
Is this the new interface? Is this the refresh that they did?
Yeah, this is
the
current. Yep.
Wow.
Oh, for Power BI?
Yeah, I like that theme that you have there.
No, I created that. So
I like those colors. Sorry.
Yeah, this is not an out of the box one. The out of box reports are very monochrome. They're functional, but it's not a lot of work to create your own. So these are some sample reports I created. But if people are not using Power BI, they should really look at it. It's a great tool. But in terms of how the Power BI works, the integration works in Business Central, you can see it's built right into the page. It's built into the role center, but you're also going to see it other places. So if I look at an item list, a vendor list, a customer list, We have the ability to take Power BI reports and put them on those pages as well. Those are going to be automatically filtered to the record you're on. So just like the fact boxes filter, the Power BI reports are going to filter as well. And it's as easy as naming the report correctly. So if I put the word items in the report name, and then I link that back to the page, so I can do this all right from the user interface. I don't have to do any magic work behind the scenes. It just has to do with how the report is named. It will link to that page, but it'll also auto filter, automatically pass the filter just like a fact box would.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
yeah, so these are some Power BI reports. If you're not into Power BI, the colors are amazing. The reports are interactive. I think I find reporting fascinating. So we went from the days of having columnar type reports that we printed to really online reports. And I think the concept of how we report and the way that these reports work is very different when you look at an online report like this versus a columnar printed type report. We have to think about how to present the data in a way that makes sense. So just taking a columnar type report and putting it into Power BI, although we can do that. So if we look at an income statement, sure, we can create an income statement in Power BI. I don't know that that's the most effective way to use Power BI, but if you've got users that want to do that, sure, we can make that happen. But I think looking at, let's say income versus actual versus budget, for example. So this is just my incomes. This now is an effective way of using Power BI within the system. So just taking budget data, actual data, just looking at my revenue side of the world, and I can see, how am I running actual to budget, and I'm getting some, raw numbers if people want to look at those as well. Are you
Yeah.
seeing a lot of movement with Power BI?
Absolutely. Every customer, whether or not even that they're on the Microsoft platform. I mean, meaning they may run, a different ERP or CRM solution. And they absolutely, every single person I talk to says that they use Power BI or they've
Yep.
used it for some aspect of the business. Now, there's other solutions that are out there, obviously, as well that, tout as a BI type platform. But, quite frankly, this has been phenomenal in terms of the capabilities that it allows for.
Yep.
It's just the reporting, taking your old data and joining it in with the new data. If you haven't used Power BI, then I'm a bit surprised by that, to be
Yep.
honest now.
Yep. And Microsoft continues to add new visualizations. I think they're monthly now. One that I really like is this one, and I don't know if you've seen this one yet, but it's a series of circles, which I think is fascinating. So if I look at my total expenses is 524. They're broken down by cost of goods sold and then just regular expenses. As I drill into these, as I click on them, my visual can change to give me an idea relationally, how does this expense relate to another expense? I think this is really a cool visualization. And I connected this to my Business Central database. So just my Business Central data. And I'm using the account structure and sub account to feed the data right here. So I didn't even have to do any additional setup. All I'm using is my account types to drill into this data. And you can see I'm going through cost of goods and advertising
Hold on,
expenses.
Leah, Dave, Stallman, this is the flywheel concept. We've been talking about a flywheel instead of the funnel concept, the flywheel concept,
Yep.
and this is pretty dang close to that, like being able to dynamically drill down into opportunities and different qualifications of where our prospects and customers are. They could have different shading that goes around, drill down into it, and even break into more detail. That's really cool.
Yep. And as it relates to Business Central, I didn't have to do any, weird gymnastics in the report to make this work.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, sometimes you have to do that. You've got to set up the data and create these hierarchies in the reporting tool. Now, I can do that with Power BI, but with this visualization, I don't even need to do that.
I was gonna say welcome Darren as well. Appreciate the follow. Nice to have you on. And then yeah, Dave, don't don't want to show anyone how much we are spending. God, come on.
Well, we can look at income.
Yeah, there you
if you
go.
want to
Yeah.
look at the
This
income
is
side
this
of things. So.
There you go.
Yeah, same thing with the visualization. So anyway, new visualizations all the time. I see that this month there's a built-in hierarchy in the slicer. So if people are looking for that in Power BI, Microsoft released that with the February release of Power BI. So new features coming all the time. But point being, yeah, Power BI native integration connecting right into Business Central. Very cool feature. Very useful features.
Yeah, and one thing I just wanted to highlight, though, I mean, so, just back up and be like, it's great, Scott. It's all pretty. It's all salesy and that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, you're right, Marcus? Because we look at that, how does that really help you understand your metrics or your business metrics that are related to it? And if you're like me, what you can do is you can have that pretty graph that you're navigating and drilling into to figure out that detail. But on the right, you can have a column display or a row column display, like on that one that you were looking at with that drill in, that's just to the right of it, and it's dynamically moving with you as well. So that way you can have real data that's related to it instead of having to hover over everything. I think that's a really key feedback area, is that we focus on the presentation of the graphical aspect of it, but it's the data is all there, and it can be displayed in that very old row and column format, so that way you can then print it out or put it into an actual PowerPoint slide, just like he was showing right here. That same control that was there on the other one would have this capability as well.
Yep. Great point. I think the ability to do things, now this one isn't very pretty, but this is looking at year over year sales. So again, presenting the data on a traditional tabular format, but then giving you a visual to look at, where are my customers performing this year to last year, and I can then drill into specific customers if I want to have updates on that. So the other thing that you pointed out, Scott, was the ability to pull data from other data sources into this. So this isn't just exclusively Business Central data that I could be looking at. I could be pulling from a different CRM system than Microsoft CRM system, or I could be pulling payroll data. There's really interesting connectors within Power BI to Google Analytics, for example. So if I wanted to pull data from that data source and integrate it with my customers, I can do that too. So a lot of things that you can integrate together using Power BI, dropping it into Business Central. Again, one place to go. What I find with some people, though, is to navigate outside of the application to find the reports can be challenging. So Power BI, you can go to Power BI directly. I have it open here. I thought I did. Yeah. So I could go into Power BI directly and I can run these reports, and there's some really cool features in here. I mean, let's be honest, sometimes users, that's more than they can take on. And we need to be able to take this report and put it into the system that they're using. So putting it directly into Business Central can sort of eliminate the whole navigation, trying to figure out what I'm doing, where I'm going. I'm surprised at how many people really get scared when they get into this Power BI component and trying to figure out workspaces and all that stuff. We can eliminate that by just dropping it into Business Central.
Well, think of it from the user's perspective, though, too, right? I mean, it's not, they're so used to doing everything in one system, and that's been limiting them too. But they look at this and they're like, well, this looks a little bit different than Business Central, right? But once you understand how to use it, it's just natively integrated. It's very easy to use as you go through that.
Yep, absolutely true. The other place, though, that Power BI is integrating, and this is off topic for Business Central, is into Teams. So again, putting the report, same one I'm looking at, into Business Central, putting it into Teams can be really effective. What I like about it is it's the same report that everyone's looking at. So one report doesn't say 1,200 and one 1,500, and then you get the question, what number is right? Right now, no one trusts anything. The other thing is I only have one report to maintain, so I can maintain a single source of data in a single report. I'm not going to have to maintain 2-3 different reports that are basically trying to show the same thing.
And you can have reports that are accessing other systems that are sharing information inside of Business Central then, right? I mean, it's just, we could probably do a whole session on just Power BI. I mean, it's just, there's so many cool things that you can do with it.
Yep, very cool. Okay, next thing I wanted to talk about is approvals. And of the implementations that I've done, I'm going to say about half of those clients leverage the approval system. And you can do approvals within Business Central. So right here, I've got this queue that says request to approve. So if I've created an approval and I want to just use the Business Central functionality out of the box, awesome, I can do that. The queue is going to update when I have a transaction to approve, and I can do that. But I also have the ability to integrate with Power Automate, so formerly Flow, to create approvals. And I want to just drop over to again to Outlook just to show you how this could work. So earlier today, I set up an approval on a customer, and what I did is I went in and said, I need to approve this customer. Now, filters could be set up to say, I don't want just any customer to have to be approved. Maybe only if the credit limit increases, I want to have an approval workflow kicked off. So there's filters that you could put on this, but this is just an example. But using Power Automate now, and again, they haven't updated this. It still says Power Flow is where the Flow is where the email is coming from. Yeah, but it's Power Automate. I can now, approve or reject the transaction without leaving Outlook. So again, keeping users in a tool that they're maybe comfortable with, or if I spend most of my day with Outlook open and I don't want to have users go back over to Business Central to do an approval, I can accomplish that right within Outlook. Approve, reject with a reason code. Some really cool things can be done with this details section. So right now I just have, customer 30,000, School of Fine Art needs to be approved. For an approval, though, I can take data elements on the transaction that I'm on and include them in the email. So if I am approving a purchase order, well, maybe just the vendor name isn't that useful. I want to know the dollar amount. Maybe I want to know what line items are coming that need to be approved. So I could present that data in the email, again, eliminating the need to go to another system to look at something. I'm going to provide everything that the user needs to approve or reject this transaction without leaving Outlook, which I think is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like to just drop into this Power Automate, so it still says Flow, which is interesting. But when I set this approval up, I can do it from within Business Central. So I create the workflow in Business Central, and then I say, go create a flow for me. And what the system is going to do is it's going to create the initial Power Automate set of workflow transactions without me having to do anything, which is really nice. So if you don't know how to create a Power Automate transaction from scratch, I don't have to do that. It'll set up a framework for me. But now I can edit this thing if I want to. So, when I say get transaction, and then, so this is when a customer approval request is initiated. You notice the little icon is a Business Central connector. So that's what it's based off of. It's going to get the record out of Business Central. So again, it's the Business Central connector that's having, and then it's going to start this approval process. And then, from the approval, yes or no, I can then do things like post a message into Teams. So out of the box, it didn't have the Teams integration in here, but I can tweak this Power Automate flow within the application here and set up an integration to Teams. So I can still further extend what the default workflow was.
Yeah, so if we go up a little bit too, though, that if you go to that workflow, the approval, right, that start an approval is an action that is not specific to Dynamics 365, or is it? Like, isn't that just a, like,
Yep.
how they have events and they have activities that you can do inside of Flow for that? That's something that basically controls that email capability, right, that we're talking about?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So these first two components are BC connectors, but this approval is a Power Automate action. That's exactly right.
Interesting. So action-wise, if you click on the plus as well, so when a customer approval is requested, we're starting an approval in a different system, but if you clicked on the plus, for example, right after the get record, it should highlight it right there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You've got the capability then to add any other types of actions, like a parallel action, and these are all the actions that you could do. I mean, you could have it where an approval method, you need to have a file that's saved for an old system that dumps to a specific location that's text delimited, tab delimited, CSV, whatever it is for the delimiter with it. You could do that too, and then have that consumed within the system, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, you're exactly right. And if you remember the example that Adam had showed us a few weeks ago, there's a lot of interesting connectors that are available to us here.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So all I did is I modified this one. So in this start approval request again, so this says, customer number name needs to be approved. Well, I could add whatever dynamic content that I want from the record that I'm looking at. So if I want to provide the address and the credit limit or whatever I'd want to do, I can provide that in the notification email, or whatever else I want to use for notifications. It could be Teams, it could be really any other connector. And then on the connection here, I'm adding the Teams connector. So when this transaction is approved, it's actually going to post an update to the Teams channel that I select. And I did this yesterday. So, you can see that yesterday I got a notification that, customer School of Fine Arts has been approved. So integrating across these platforms and across these applications is really easy to do. Really easy to do. And I'm not a Power Automate expert, and I can figure that out.
Yeah, it just expands beyond, once again, ERP, like we've been telling everyone over and over again. So cool.
Yep. The other thing that to think about, if you're using SharePoint, if you're using Dropbox, if you're using Evernote, these other applications that a lot of our clients do use, there's connectors for all of those. So if I want to post to an Evernote folder, or do I want to update a SharePoint list, those are all things that I can do in here. It's not just the Teams and Outlook feature functionality that I can integrate with. It's not even just a Microsoft platform that I can integrate with. These other platforms become available to me. The
Yeah,
one I
and they
like,
also
Twilio.
Twilio.
Yeah, with texting. So often everyone wants to do some text messages. Well, we can do that now with Power Automate.
You have an approval that's required with it. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, and there's also the other aspect of the custom. I mean, that's one that people kind of overlook. Let's say that you have an application that your service provider has not created a connector inside of Power Automate to tackle that flow, basically. There's custom ones that you can create, and if there's an API that you can access with your local instance, for example, maybe it's in .NET, but maybe they haven't created that custom interface for it, you can still then use a custom connector as long as you create kind of a middleware concept between it. It's called a WCF service or something of that nature. I've done it multiple times for other clients and prospects and in demos too, where it can then connect to that and interact then with that data, as long as you've then created that middleware component to handle the translation from a flow request basically into the API that needs to grab that data inside of the system. So it's not limited. That's if you want to do it in development, and then you can also do the the RPA, right? The robotic processing agents that you can install.
Yep.
That would do that. That basically mimic a person.
Yep. Very cool. Okay, so those are just some Office touch points. The other one that I like to talk about is Excel, and I'm just going to go to a customer list here. And I know a lot of people have maybe seen this, but this Edit in Excel feature, I think is amazing. So I'm just going to hit Edit in Excel, and I'm going to open this up. And Microsoft has made a couple changes to this that I like to point out. So if you haven't used this feature before, this allows me to use Excel as a client to Business Central, and I think that's an important distinction. So a lot of different ERP packages will provide. I got to think because I'm typing my password here. Okay, a lot of different ERP systems and a lot of systems will have a connection to Excel, and what they're really doing is they're hitting the database layer directly. So they're connecting to a table and they're opening up some sort of connection into Excel to a table directly. And what I like to point out to people on that one is you're really bypassing your native security setup within the application when you do that. So if you don't have a security schema around the database itself, you're going to have to create one. Or you just have users that have read-only access to the data, which at some point could be useful. But with this Edit in Excel connection, we're actually connecting to the business logic tier of Business Central, which allows me to leverage the security here, which I think is extremely powerful. So I can have people that have Edit in Excel functionality and they could run this utility, but if they have read-only access to the customers, I don't have to worry about them suddenly updating my customer records because they have access to the data via Edit in Excel. I think that's just a huge difference between the way most ERP systems do a sort of a connection to Excel.
Yep.
The other thing is I'm going to be able to use and leverage flow fields. So if you're familiar with the technology behind flow fields, these are calculated fields that exist on the master record, and I have visibility to those within Excel, which again I think is really cool. And you'll notice over here on the right though that the connector is smart enough to know that that's a read-only field. I don't want somebody updating a customer balance via edit in Excel, right? That doesn't even make any sense. I have visibility to that data, but I can't change it versus a name, which now, becomes editable. I just think this is really cool.
Yeah, it is a
Couple
great feature. Absolutely.
couple things that they added, I think, which are really nice, is the ability now to not just select which columns and that I want to show up. So, a lot of things may be relevant to some people and not relevant to the other. And, name 2 is not relevant. I can just hit remove. I can hit update, and now my Excel spreadsheet is going to update without that field in it. I can also add other fields that maybe aren't exposed right here. I think that's really cool. The other thing is if you've done extensions and have created additional columns, let's say on this customer table, because that's what I'm on, they're going to show up natively in this connector. So I don't have to do anything to enable these fields to be visible in Edit in Excel. So if I've created, again, custom columns just on the customer, but this is available on any table essentially, I can use that new field in my Excel spreadsheet.
Interesting. So it's not using the form for or the page technically. It's using the table for the data source for it. So
Yeah, it's connecting to the table. So
interesting. Okay.
yeah, it's a little different, and
So
you
if
can
you
see
don't have
that.
the field exposed, and that's a common question that we get, right? Which is the field is not on the page, therefore you can't view it in the list. But what you're saying is if it's in the table, you would be able to export to Excel and see that on there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and
Awesome.
that's a great question because sometimes things aren't on a page, and
Yeah,
I want visibility to it. I have visibility to it here.
that's awesome.
Um,
Okay.
the other thing that I can do, and I haven't experimented a lot with this, is the ability to add multiple tables. So if you think of a header line item relationship, let's say a sales order transaction where I've got a header and I've got line items, I have the ability then to modify this connector to add those relationships together so that I could actually use Edit in Excel to create things like sales orders, sales invoices, and purchase orders. Now, I say that I'm going to have somebody that's going to post in the comments to say that's nuts. There are some caveats with that. When you look at line numbering and you look at that sort of thing, you've got to account for that when you do the edit in Excel. So it's not going to natively number lines, for example, if I'm creating records. I'm going to have to do that. But it does give me the connection via Excel back to creating those types of transactions.
Hey, Marcus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You know what I'm going to ask, right?
What are you going to ask me?
Can you click on Add Table? I want to see what it does. Oh my gosh. Look at
Yep.
that. Those are all the API. So the native invoicing, those are the API connectors.
Yep.
Can you click on like the sales header? Set down a little bit. Sales documents. That would be it. Yep.
Yep.
And then click next. Sales document entity
There's my
options.
available fields.
So let's add an ID real quick. Entity options. Refresh after publish. Alright, and then when you click on it, everyone's like, wait a second. Unable to add new data as data already exists at this location. Okay, so that might be before you do the refresh portion of it, you can actually go through and do the update that's related to it. Okay.
Yep.
That's interesting.
That's what
but that's
I think you're
cool.
right on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the power of this. I mean, so Forest Runner had mentioned in chat that finance and supply chain management. Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's the whole point of Confab, right? Let's experiment with this. So you guys can see what we have to do in a demo. Hey, Scott, would you click on that? Yeah, sure. So, but the point here, though, is that you can extend this, it looks like. So in finance and supply chain management, we don't have this capability yet. We can add through OData the data entities, which is a really slick feature where we can show all of that. Yeah, exactly, Dave. But the cool thing about this is that, this feature, more than likely, I could see coming over at some point to
Yes.
the other capabilities, because this connector, the Dynamics Office connector, is basically the same one that we use as well inside of finance and operations, or finance and supply chain management.
Yep.
That's cool. Okay, thank you.
All right.
It's not a demo unless you've got a customer asking you to touch every little thing that you have to look at here.
Yeah. No, really, I want to see you post that transaction.
Yeah, exactly. Can you update that, please? Then go back to the system and take a look, please.
Right.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And I'm being very, very sarcastic here, but there are situations that you're just like, well, I haven't tested this, and usually you like to test as you're doing a demonstration, because there's a lot of setup that's involved with some of these things. And when you go through the implementation, of course, you're testing that process to go through it. But in a demo, we want to make sure, we want to show you everything, but it can be a scary endeavor.
Yep. Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, in the last demo, you changed the configuration, so it won't work anymore. So.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about the admin center. So
yeah, this is something people usually. I want to interrupt. Sorry, this is something people do not talk about very often, right? Like we show the software features, but how do you maintain it?
Yep. All right.
I got you right when you get into water. Sorry.
So when how do I get to this? If I come up here to the gear, my settings, and I click on admin center, and this is a special permission set, so people get wigged out by security. Yes, I need to have a specific permission set to be able to access this. But once I get in here, what this admin center is going to allow me to do is administer my Business Central environment. So you can see I have a production environment set up. I have a sandbox environment set up, and I have a Wave 1 preview set up in my environment. So I can have one production system and then multiple sandbox and preview environments set up. And this is so easy to do. If I want to create an environment, I just click new. What am I going to call this? My new configuration. I can make it a production or a sandbox environment. And when I create a sandbox, I can take a copy of production if I want to, or I can create a new one based on a preview version or the current version. And I click create, and it goes out and it creates the environment. Takes about 10 to 15 minutes for that to run, which, in the grand scheme of things is, I think, pretty quick. Not that big of a deal.
Yeah, you should be planning this, right?
Right. So once I have my environment set up, what I'm going to see over here to the right, which is the key, is the URL that I want to connect to. So if I want to connect to that environment or give people access to it, I can send them that URL. What you'll also notice is if I have permissions, these sandboxes are going to show up in my home.dynamics.com window. So when I go in there, a bunch of apps, and I don't know if we ever looked at that setup much.
On what?
homedynamics.com. This is kind of a cool little feature. So what this is going to do is it's going to show me the apps that have been published within my Dynamics environment. So it's got my Business Central. There's my Business Central sandbox. A couple other things. Published Power Apps show up in here. So I've got a business card reader. I've got a customer dashboard that I created as a Power App. Photo items for importing. Those are all going to show up in my Dynamics home window. And then if I had CRM or the Dynamics 365 for sales applications or apps, those would show up as well. These are all Power Apps that I've created, though. Those are all showing up. So you can see my link to my sandbox can also be driven from there. But yeah, so I can have different versions, that sort of thing. A couple of things to note on the environments themselves is I have the ability to set up an update window and then schedule the update. So as Microsoft starts rolling out the April release, so this is going to affect any Business Central users right now, when that release becomes available, I can come in here and set a window. Now, I wouldn't say this is really feature rich at this time, but I'm starting to get more and more control over when this happens. So one important thing to set is that update window, which is going to set the time of day. So you don't want this upgrade running maybe at noon, probably not a great option. So I'm going to want to set that to be, an overnight process. When the upgrade is available, I'm going to be able to actually schedule my update then. And of course, this says there's not an update available because it's not updated yet. But I'm going to be able to then schedule when do I want this update to happen. So some important features here. Another one that's just been added, create a database export. So this is a big one people have been asking about is, well, how do I get to my data? Now we had rapid start tools that you can, suck your data out into Excel. For smaller environments that probably works fine, or for specific tables that you want to pull data out. But this is going to allow me to actually create a database export. Well, I can't do it because my session is expired, which is interesting. Okay. Um, but I would be able then to create an export of my data set right here.
It's a backpack. It's a
Yeah.
SQL Server data set. Interesting.
Yep.
You
So
use
cool.
that for importing. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So cool feature that's been now added into the application. Another thing that unfortunately, I think a lot of people miss this. You need to go in the admin center and set up this notification recipients on the system. So what this is going to do is it's going to provide a list of individual email addresses that you want to notify when your system gets updated. So if Microsoft applies a patch, applies an upgrade, whatever it might be, they're going to email everyone that sits in this notification receipts list that a change has happened in the system. So huge thing to pay attention to on your system. The other one is this telemetry configuration on your Business Central system. What this is going to allow you to do, actually what it does allow you to do, is to review error messages that your users may have had in the system. So I know when we went to the cloud SaaS-based system, the concern was, well, how do I help users troubleshoot errors that they're having in the system? Well, this is the mechanism that Microsoft is providing for you to review error messages in the system, find out more information, etc. Microsoft also uses this to troubleshoot your environment. So if you do have a problem, they have access to this data as well, and they'll help look at error messages, etc. So I think some nice features in the admin environment, and we're seeing more and more things added all the time.
If you go back to that telemetry area, there's that all that's there. Is there different? Is there like if you search, is there different types of settings that can be exposed? It probably is configurable with that, right?
Yeah, I think it's configurable. I haven't spent a lot of time with this. I've seen it demoed a couple of times. Where you can actually create an error message in the system. You force one with some bad coding, and then it'll create some entries here that you can review.
Oh, this is huge. I mean, it can show you the object ID, the extension, the error message, the function name that called that. I
Yep.
mean, from a development point of view, I love it because then you can identify a common error or
Yep.
some specific error. Now, it'd
Yep.
be nice if they hooked up Flow with it. Maybe they'll get to that at some point.
Yeah, it's really nice when you look at these preview versions. So if you've got a preview version and you've got extensions that are now erroring, because of an update, this allows you then to review what those error messages are. And to your point, you can look at the specific objects that are causing the problem and really look at what kind of messages are you getting back on those.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Just to point out, these are not partner features. These are end user features that we're looking at. So this isn't, a backdoor that we have as a partner to someone's system. Clients have this access. All right. Let me look at what else we were going to look at today. Yeah. The other thing I was going to show you is actually the preview. So this is the April release. Are you amazed?
I'm absorbing. I'm looking. It looks similar.
Yeah, it does. One of the cool things I want to just point out too is this integration with the camera down here. This is a feature that we've talked a lot about, internally at Stoneridge. I know it's been a request that people have had for a long time. When Microsoft delivers apps for the tablet and the phone, they're free. You can download them, same user ID and password. Super cool. But people have said, well, why can't I take a picture of something with my phone or my tablet and then integrate it into Business Central? And we've said, oh, that's a really good question. Well, it's available now with the April release. And what this does is it actually integrates with the OCR capabilities in the system. So on my phone or my tablet, actually, if I clicked it now, you'd see my camera display. I can take a picture of my document and it will automatically feed the OCR add-in within Business Central. So I think that's a pretty cool feature that's now available in the application. The key here is that the connection to my camera is now available. So when we've talked about like in service management, for example, I want to take a picture of the piece of equipment that we're repairing and attach it to my service order, for example. That's something that I'm going to be able to do. Or in jobs, for example, I want to take a picture of, I don't know, something that's happening on the job or on the work site and attach it maybe to my timesheet. So having that camera now available to us is really cool. A lot of possibilities involved in that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Have
Um,
we have we gone through? Have you gone through the list yet, by chance?
of the updates,
Changes, yeah.
yeah, I have. I think from an end user perspective, new feature functionalities, I'm not going to say there's a lot of them there. There are some, there's some nice additions in that, but what they've really invested in is some back end improvements. So, what everyone should see is faster performance. So, they've gone through and really changed how the grids work, for example, so that pages load faster. As I'm scrolling through records, I'm going to be able to move through the system faster. What that tells me is that there must be some very large data sets that Microsoft is integrating with, because I think most of our clients don't have performance issues when they look at Business Central, but Microsoft is building out this application to really scale. So they've made some investment in that side of the world, and then some additional development changes, which I think are really cool. If you're if you're doing and building out extensions, adding some new enhanced capabilities there for extension development, which is really good.
And I'm gonna share this just really quickly on the screen, Marcus. Sorry, taking away your thunder for a second. One thing that came through here that I saw was migrations to Business Central Online, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
enhanced Dynamics GP migration, GP migration, GP migration. Like there's 5 different points on here, maybe
Yes.
4, and I'm saying 5. Sorry guys, keep me honest. There's 4 major points here, and I was actually on a webinar that they did regarding GP push. It's not saying GP is going away, because it's not, but they're really looking at making it so that other customers can migrate, obviously, over to that now too, right?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Yeah. So these integrators, or I don't know exactly what you call them, they're migration utilities. They're going to help you set up a Business Central environment using these systems as a data source. So, chart of accounts, dimensions, customers, vendors, open transactions. That's part of the integration point. So, my open AR, open AP, they'll transfer over inventory, that sort of thing. Microsoft's continuing to invest in these connectors and these migration toolkits so that it's easier for people to move from an on-prem system to Business Central. There's a nav one in there too, isn't there at the bottom? I can't read your screen, but I think there's a nav on-prem to BC migration tool
Yeah,
as
from
well.
Business Central on-prem to 15x online. Yep,
Yep,
they're
yep. And
really
plus the
focusing on that cloud transition.
yeah, and all of our forgotten SL users that really are the forgotten stepchild there. There is actually a migration tool for SL users as well.
Oh wow! And I
Yep,
mean, you came from SL and GP, right? So I
I did.
mean,
Yep.
you know that pain that I know that some prospects, some of our customers as well, are going through with it. And we've been actively preparing for this for some time now in the background, trying to understand, what the customer transition is going to be, because there's things like, for example, that GP does really really well, and GP is a great solution. I don't want anyone to ever think that we think differently. It's just that moving forward, it makes sense for Microsoft not to have 5 different ERP applications. It
Yep.
makes sense for maybe 2, and even 2 is questionable in some ways. Obviously, different markets is what we tackle with those solutions. So it's just if that's the way that Microsoft is going, we want to at least better help our customers with that transition. And so far, we've had a couple that have gone through that transition, right, Marcus? And they've
Yes.
been very happy with that transition because the right expectations were set, the functionality was there that they needed, and they were able to go live with it. Not saying that there are other customers right now that are not in the best position, because I think that there are some third-party solutions with GP that, for example, that were very very well known in the GP channel and used,
Yep.
and there's not something comparable yet inside of BC, but that's something obviously that's going to make this a longer evolution as we expect as well.
Yep. Yep. But we've transitioned both SL and GP clients successfully.
Yep. Awesome.
Very good.
What else do you have? Anything? I mean, can you go to a document? Because they said that on the purchase orders and sales orders, you could see like better lists and things of that nature. Take a quick look. I'm the worst demo receiver.
Yeah, what they did is they just allow you to collapse the lines. I don't know exactly how. I mean, it's kind of interesting, I guess, if you wanted to
Screen real
collapse that
estate.
section. Yeah, exactly. What I like is what they added in the previous release, which was the
Yes,
ability
the
to
pop outs.
expand the line items.
Yeah, because usually you've got like 20 line items that you want to go through and you want to interact with, right?
Yeah, yeah. That I think is a nice feature. This maybe less so, but that's okay. I mean, it's good. The other thing that they added before was the notes feature, and I guess I don't have it everywhere in this document, but the ability to do longhand notes. So we've had note capabilities in BC for a long time, but it's the single line type concept. It's not really free-form text, so they're adding more of that free-form text to the application in various places. You'll see that.
Awesome. And then also we've got the common data service integration that we're going to be able to look at with this eventually, right? I mean,
Yes, we
that's
are.
coming as well here pretty soon.
Yeah, so this initial wave, what they're doing is actually integrating at the company level. So if I go to, I don't know, companies, if I look at how many companies I have set up in my environment, so this environment happens to have two companies. So the companies are going to connect back to CDS so that I can start doing some filtering on transactions within CDS based on the company. So right now you kind of have to you have to hard code the company information when you connect to Business Central through the CDS. If I'm going to move data or just use the connectors to Business Central, I'm going to hard code those. So having the company information in the CDS is going to make these connectors much more dynamic. So if I've got 4, 5, 6 companies set up, it's going to be much less work to get that data into the CDS and interact with it, the Business Central data back and forth. So
Okay.
just the first step in the process, but it's really a key step for us from the Business Central side.
Awesome. Well, it's definitely going in the right direction too. And
Yep.
then obviously, I mean, there's a lot of development stuff that's in the background too. We don't have enough time. We had it as a backup where we'd go into the development environment to show you Visual Studio Code. I apologize to the developers that are on stream that may have wanted to see that. Maybe we will do a session on that as well. I know there's a lot of people that are getting ready to head out to beer and pizza, which I will not be going to, which would sound really good right now, but that today, after being gone for almost a week and a half, my inbox is absolutely insane. So I'm
I
looking
can
forward to
imagine it is.
tackling a lot of that. Marcus, was there anything else that you were thinking about showing as part of this presentation here?
No, those are the pieces I wanted to hit today.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna switch this off screen so we're back to chat. So guys, Leah, anyone, 2 weeks from now, what's our content that we're going to be talking about? I don't remember right offhand.
Don't
I'm just
either.
getting back into this. It's either IoT or something else, and that would be nice to know in the future before I go on stream. Shame on me. Shame on me. But 2 weeks from now, we will have another fantastic topic to talk about. And like I said, it's probably, we'll go check the schedule. I don't know, Marcus, if you can do that in the background as I'm going through and doing this. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we'll plan to have some more content that we have here. Marcus has gone supersize on me again, as you can
Oh,
see.
sorry.
Hopefully, we didn't have too many technical glitches as we went through today. We're trying to get everything kind of streamlined with it. We appreciate everyone joining. Looks like we are at Power Apps and AI Builder. That's even more fun. So we get to deal with artificial intelligence. Thank you, Leah. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you,
For
Leah. I
everyone,
can't find the schedule.
yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, we just talk, right? That's what we're here for. We're for the comedic value. So, thank you again, guys, for your time. We love doing this. If you guys have questions or if you want to see specific content in the future, please feel free to submit on our channel. We have a suggestion box that not a single person has used yet. I've gotten a lot of emails, which is awesome as well. But let's say you don't know my email address and you'd like to have a suggestion on what content you'd like us to tackle. Please fill that out, and we'd be more than happy to do that. We look forward to tackling some of the future content here as well as we dive a little bit deeper into IoT, AI, and some of the other features. And yeah, as Sabrina and Leah are awesomely doing right here, right now, there is the link if you want to keep up with Confab. And we will see you guys 2 weeks from today.
Have a good
Thank
one.
you.